The story today is the fact that crime is increasing. It's getting more and more violent. We've got a BITSA bill in front of us that have within it, and they've buried additional bills that they don't want you, the Manitobans, the public, to have a voice on. It's unfortunate, but this is this Premier's MO. More showman than statesman.
Because they know they're in trouble with BITSA. They have found a mechanism to go around the traditional methods of having Manitobans have their say on bills. So due to their incompetence, they couldn't get the bills introduced in time. And I'll just go over the specific ones that were standalone bills that are now included in BITSA that Manitobans will not get a chance to present to committee on. And this is yourself as well at committee. You don't have the option to sit in committee and listen to it. But the first one is the Election Financing Amendment Act. And this is about the NDP feathering their nest. They are doubling the amount of money out of taxpayers' pockets that will be going back to the NDP party. And I think Manitobans would want input at committee and hold government to account. Ask them directly why they are giving themselves a raise when they're talking about cuts everywhere else in Manitoba. Another one is the Environment Amendment Act. And instead of introducing this bill separately, they are adding it to the BITSA bill, which is unprecedented. The Manitoba Hydro Amendment Act, 4% increase in Manitoba Hydro. The NDP is putting this forward in BITSA. The Labour Relations Amendment Act, forcing unionization onto businesses. I would ask anybody here if there's a business that would not want to have a say on this at committee. All of this is being swept under the carpet, hidden from Manitobans, where they can't present and or ask questions of government. Also, the Seniors Advocate Act. They actually eliminated the Department of Seniors and have done nothing to backfill that. All of these bills have been tacked onto the back of BITSA, which is unprecedented in Manitoba.
For those Manitobans who don't watch what happens here minute by minute, the PCs brought forward an amendment to simply say, let's remove these acts out of BITSA and let's have public committee come present on them. And what did the NDP do? Every single one of them voted no. We don't want Manitobans to come have their say. That's the story. They are abusing their power in government and removing democracy from Manitobans. Plain and simple. The amendment was, it's going to pass. It's in BITSA. It's in the budget bill. But let's have Manitobans come talk to it. They said no. I tabled in the House, and I can quote again here today, and I can table it for you today. In 2020, where this Premier, the member for Fort Garry, the government House leader, all said in Hansard that what was being done then was undemocratic, was wrong. It shouldn't be done. They would never do it. And what are they doing? They're doing it times 10. The reality is this Premier is distracting all of you. The headlines tomorrow won't be what's in the budget bill. It won't be what's affecting Manitobans, increase in crime. $148 million education property tax, the largest in the history of this province. It won't be violence at healthcare centres. It won't be the decrease in funding for daycare spots. It won't be the fact that the education minister has no clue what's going on with exams. We can go on and on and on. And that is what this Premier is trying to accomplish, get media and Manitobans not talking about that stuff. This Premier wants to stand up there and talk about democracy. He is violating Manitobans' democracy. He is playing with smoke and mirrors and trying to distract you. Plain and simple.
The cost of having BITSA not pass, like for the financial parts of it, until just before the throne speech. What's the advantage or disadvantage to that?
Well, the government is operating under interim supply, which is a percentage of last year's budget.
I'm going to comment on that too, actually.
Yeah.
So I'll just comment quickly on that as well, and that's a question probably better suited for the finance minister on what that's going to be. But as my colleague commented in the Interim Appropriation Act, and I did bring this up in there, that I had to question the minister as to why they were borrowing so much money. 90%, usually historically was 75%, 35%. Historically, I think they asked for 75% of various areas. I'd asked why are you borrowing so much money? Why is the debt so high? Why have you already borrowed billions of dollars? And there was no answer at that time, which maybe lets you to think maybe this was planned all along. Maybe they knew that within this budget bill, they were going to cram this legislation through and it was going to be held over. But if you look at the scope and the scale of what's being forced through in this budget bill, that is of major concern for Manitobans. And it should be more concerning that when the Premier and the Finance Minister are asked point blank, will you separate these and allow Manitobans to come have their say? Their answer is no.